We're live. Good evening. This is the call to order for the Policy, Personnel, and Contracts Committee. Today is Monday, February 12th, 2024. The time now is 6:38 p.m. We have the first item on our agenda is approval from minutes, January 9th, 2024. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Make a motion.
It's been moved by Mr. Woodson. I'll second. Are there any edits or comments regarding the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor of the minutes? Aye. Any abstentions?
I abstain. I wasn't here.
One abstention from Ms. Bain, and no one in opposition. The minutes carried. The next item on the agenda is discussion and possible action on the resubmission of a new proposed contract between Relay and the Bridgeport Board of Education. So I believe we have someone online presenting from Relay. Okay. Right now, we're waiting for a representative from Relay to present their new proposed contract renewals resubmission. It looks like they were online earlier and may have gotten disconnected. They went into. Yeah, see, Lindsay. Okay, here we are. Hi, good evening, Mr. Maines. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Hello.
Hi, good evening. So you're up now. If you can just introduce the new proposed terms for a potential contract with Relay and the Bridgeport Board of Education.
Absolutely. I should be joined by my colleague, Joanne. She might be in the waiting room. We were kind of popping between the two links. She will be presenting the majority of our time today, but as we wait for her to join back into this link, I just want to thank you all. It's really great to be back with Bridgeport tonight. And we are excited to represent our proposal for partnership.
Okay.
And oh, there we go. We have, hi, Joanne.
Hello.
Joanne, I was just getting us kicked off or as we found our way into this correct Zoom room or Teams room. So as I was saying, thank you all for having us back tonight. I am joined tonight by my colleague, Joanne Krosky, who is our Vice President of Customized Coaching and Training here at Relay. And tonight, Joanne and I will share three things with this committee based on the feedback that we've received over the past few weeks. The first is for the benefit of everyone on the committee. We'll do a high-level overview of who we are at Relay and what we do. And then we'll provide an overview of our instructional model with real examples from our current and past partners. And finally, we'll provide the updated proposal for Bridgeport, which has been amended to address the feedback. So with that framing, I'll hand it off to Joanne.
Good evening, everyone. It's great to see you. I just put in the chat if I could get access to be able to share my screen. That way I can walk you through the presentation. Someone do that for me?
You should be all set.
Great, perfect. Thank you. Right, so you all can see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So as Tim said, My name is Jelon Krosky, and I have been with Relay now for about 4 years, starting off as an associate dean, also working as an associate partner, managing partner, and just as of a week ago, have been promoted to vice president of our customized coaching team. So I'm really excited to be here and tell you a little bit more about our programming, and it's programming that I have been a part of and have been in partnership with districts near and dear to me. So a little bit about me. I've spent over 25 years in education. I started off as a middle school teacher. I taught elementary school and then moved into school leadership. In school leadership, I have in some capacity either coached, led a school, provided support for schools from pre-K through 12 in different areas in both Virginia and in Maryland, as well as working with schools and school leaders in other states across the country through some consulting and coaching work. I'm very passionate about working with communities that serve predominantly Black and Brown children. It's been a passion of mine for a number of years and where I feel like I can have the most impact in my work. When I am not leading, coaching, or working with schools, I am a wife. I am a mother of 2 boys and 1 dog, and I live in Maryland between Baltimore and DC, and appreciate living here because I can get to both places pretty easily and work in both places as well. So that's just a little bit about me. As I mentioned, I've been with Relay now for 4 years, and I'm excited to transition into this role as a vice president of customized coaching, where I'm leading a team of really dedicated coaches and school leaders that are passionate about providing support in a variety of ways. So in that work, just to give you a little bit of background about Relay, I know that some of you have heard some of this before, but for those of you that may not have, just a little bit about who Relay Graduate School of Education is. We are a non-for-profit institution of higher education, and we provide support and development for school leaders as well as teachers across the country, from pre-service teachers all the way up to district and system level leaders. Our work is grounded in being equity-centered, primarily in the belief that every student can achieve at high levels, and we support our leaders in being able to reach that goal. Secondly, our work is research-based. It is rooted in the tenets in the ways in which adults learn, and what we've seen in the highest performing schools across the country. We work to replicate some of the work that has been truly successful in a variety of communities. And finally, it's work that's based in feedback and practice. One of the things that we do really well is to provide really specific and targeted feedback, whether it's for a leader or for a teacher, and provide them an opportunity to practice some specific skills to develop in order to improve their practice so that they not only do those practices stick, but they're the most effective. In our work, our work really is grounded in 3 programs. One is the teacher prep program. The second is leadership programs. And the third is teacher professional education programs, which help to develop our teachers after they have started their career path. In fact, we have since 2015 been a proud partner in Connecticut, providing teacher preparation programs for teachers as an alternative route to certification. And we've trained over 650 teachers right in your home state. Today, we're going to focus on our leadership program development work with aligned teacher professional development. So, why would we do this? We want to address one specific challenge that we see with lots of our partners across the country. One, we found in some interviews that we've conducted with some of your leaders that they feel that both teachers and leaders feel overwhelmed. They feel overwhelmed by the idea that we know that students have some gaps.
Ms. Brown, if you could hold on 1 second, there's been an issue with the monitor in our end and we cannot see your presentation.
Okay,
We can hear you, but we can't see you.
Technical difficulties.
no problem.
I'll let you know once we're able to see your presentation again.
Okay, great. Thank you.
While we're waiting for the presentation to come back live, just a small thing. In attendance is myself, Board Chair Christine Baptiste Perez, Committee Member Andre Woodson, as well as Committee Member Tahiba Bain. I'll open the floor for only committee members to speak and ask questions, but I will also take this time to acknowledge board members present and online. So online, we have Vice Chair Akeisha Casimir. We also have the Board of Education Secretary Jennifer Perez that's attended in person. We have board members Willie Medina, Albert Benaham, Robert Traber, Joseph Sokolovic here in person. And with that little interlude, we can see you now, so you can continue with the presentation. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. So as I was saying, we are working to address this challenge that we have identified through speaking with some of the school leaders in Bridgeport Public Schools. And the two big things that emerged are, one, that teachers and school leaders feel overwhelmed. They're working hard every single day to help students who come into class with varying academic needs, and they have to ensure that everyone accesses quality and consistent Tier 1 instruction every day. And secondly, the leaders feel scattered. They feel like they're not all working from the same playbook. Their colleagues down the street might have different priorities, and it makes it harder to communicate. And they're feeling that there's a lack of consistency over time. And both of these obstacles can prevent Bridgeport from achieving the lofty goals and vision that have been set by the superintendent. Specifically under the idea that we're going to rise together, meaning all students are rising together to reach ambitious goals. And these specific challenges of leaders and teachers feeling overwhelmed and there being a lack of consistency and feeling scattered can also prevent us from really achieving the district priorities of building teacher capacity, implementing culturally responsive instruction, and guaranteeing Tier 1 instruction while closing gaps in every classroom. But what we know at Relay is that educators and their students can thrive with the right resources and tools. And Bridgeport is an incredibly rich community with students that have many assets that they're bringing to schools every day. We want to ensure that some of that overwhelmed feeling that the teachers are feeling and the lack of consistency that the leaders are feeling is addressed so that we can really build upon the assets that our students are bringing to our classrooms every single day. So just to speak a little bit about what our approach is, you see this graphic here on the screen. The idea is to support our system level leaders to build their vision, solidify their priorities, and ensure that they have established the systems and the structures that are going to lay the foundation for a really strong change management priorities. Once that is done, then we can trickle out to principal supervisors and coach and provide them with the tools that they need to, again, reinforce the systems and build the structures that are necessary to implement change. Once the principal supervisors have that clear vision and the systems and the structures in place, then they can train and support their principals, train and support their instructional leadership teams at each school, and hold them accountable for doing the work that's going to have the biggest impact on student achievement, which is our ultimate goal. So we take this approach, we work closely with every level of leaders ideally in our support. And that ultimately leads to our instructional leaders being able to coach the teachers, provide support, and be very narrow on their approaches with teachers to improve teacher practice, which again yields stronger student achievement. So I know that you've seen a proposal from Relay for Bridgeport Public Schools. And as Tim mentioned earlier, we've made some revisions to that proposal in order to respond to some feedback that we shared earlier. So I wanted to share a really brief overview of what that revised scope of work might be that we're proposing. So we reduced the last version that was shared to the board in order to address a couple of specific questions. One, we heard from the board that it seems difficult to contemplate a multi-year contract in the midst of budget uncertainty. That definitely resonates with me. I've been working with DC Public Schools for the past 4 years, and every single year we've gone through like a revision of the support that we're offering for this exact reason, because you don't know what your budget's going to look like from one year to the next. Another piece of feedback that we received that really resonated as well was that we wanted to honor Dr. Levy David's slow growth model of change, in which we start small, build success in a small cohort of schools or a small component of our district, and then scale with the local leaders at the helm. Again, this similarly resonates with me because it's very similar to the work that we did in DC, where we started with just 1 or 2 clusters of schools and now have expanded across the school system. So the graphic that you see on the screen is representative of what we're proposing now. Starting with district leadership, where we would provide ongoing coaching and support to the district leadership team. This coaching might come in the form of executive coaching, meeting one-on-one, again, helping the district leadership team to establish the vision, the priorities, the systems, and the structures that are necessary to help the district team, as well as the schools, implement some of the key initiatives. Secondly, that next layer, the district team, which might be comprised of principal supervisors, your district level content leaders, they would participate in our summer professional development series, which is titled the National Principal Supervisor Academy. There they would develop expertise and skills and be able to leverage resources to really focus in on some of the key instructional leadership levers that they would be learning about and then supporting and executing in their schools. Finally, we'd have 2 cohorts of focus schools that we would identify collaboratively with you, most primarily through your understanding of the landscape of your school district, and identify a group of focus schools where all principals would engage in some summer professional development, along with some folks from their leadership teams. We would also implement virtual and on-site coaching for those principals. And that could look like a few different things. One quick example might be that a relay coach might visit a school and do a walkthrough with the principal. In that walkthrough, they might visit all the classrooms or a specific subset of classrooms. The coach would help the leader identify clear, actionable feedback for the teachers that they're seeing. They may identify a trend in instruction that needs to be addressed across the math department, the ELA department, or possibly all teachers. Then the relay coach would support the principal in coming up with a plan of action to address whatever gap that seems to be prevalent across that walkthrough. Not only would they help them prepare, but they also will push them to practice. How are you going to roll this out to your staff? How are you going to present it? What are the next steps that you'll take to provide this feedback? And how are you going to follow up? So that might be how the virtual or on-site coaching would look like. And then, of course, virtual coaching would happen in between to continue the work moving forward. Finally, under this proposal, the teachers would be able to engage in virtual workshops that reinforce what their principals are asking them to do. Again, to build common language, to build a common vision for what strong instruction looks like, what the specific protocols might look like, so that everyone is working from the same playbook and building on some common language as well as common protocols that they're taking in their meetings and in their classrooms. So in all of this work, we would narrow our focus to two key buckets. One is data-informed instruction, and the second is observation feedback. Data-informed instruction specifically helps us address this challenge. When students are performing below grade level, how do you recover and build skills as you address grade level standards? So we know that students might be coming to us with some gaps, but we want to be able to ensure that our teachers are equipped to address any gaps that are seen in the student work. So the game plan here is professional development and coaching to help teachers use student work most effectively to tailor their lessons. Specifically, we'd be training the leaders to look at student work, really analyze what are we seeing and not seeing that demonstrates mastery here, and in the gaps that we're seeing that are driven by misconceptions that students have, what are we now going to plan and practice to be able to close those gaps, so that the teacher walks into the classroom in the next few days with a plan to address those gaps that has been collaboratively developed alongside their leader. They've gotten feedback on it, they've practiced it, and they feel confident in being able to close those gaps with their students. In short, we're helping the leaders to develop a key system in data-informed instruction. Here, we teach and support our leaders in assessing, analyzing student work and student outcomes, and then acting upon that. Now, the data here does not necessarily only have to come from your benchmark assessments or your end-of-year assessments. In fact, we encourage our leaders to not use those things on a regular basis. Instead, we want to ensure that our leaders are monitoring tier 1 everyday instruction. What's happening from one day to the next? Did we set out to teach something? Did the students learn it? And if they did not, what are we going to do about it? So through that system and that cycle, our leaders and teachers are set to respond more quickly to gaps instead of waiting for a benchmark assessment to come around to then see that students didn't quite master the content. One quick story of a leader where this really worked well. Here you see Marissa Costello, and she's a principal in Queens, New York. She really prioritized weekly data meetings, and you can see this quote that she shared with us in reflection of her work with her teachers. She says, fourth grade teacher Lennox Ann Bailey, who was introduced to the process during the 22-23 school year, agrees, calling these meetings that she's had with her leaders a constant conversation about student work, about pinpointing the gap, being laser focused on what that gap is, and reteaching. It starts to become muscle memory once you keep going. As a result of Ms. Costello's focus on weekly data meetings in the 21-22 school year, where she worked on aligning classroom tasks, her students showed significant gains in their year-end state test, with more than 3/4 of third graders scoring proficient and above in both ELA and math. And these were above citywide averages. So the first component of our work would be data-informed instruction, and the second would be observation, feedback, and coaching. Here we're going to bring that coaching mindset to the table. So I have a son that plays basketball, and I often see sort of like the work that coaches are doing to help the players be better. Here, with this coaching mindset, we want to support teachers without adding more stress to their plates. So how can we help make them better without making it even more stressful? The game plan here is to teach our principals as well as their teams, to coach teachers in a way that is supportive yet not evaluative, that's consistent, that's sort of baked into what they do and not infrequent, and it's practical. And teachers can use that feedback right away, and they constantly feel like they're growing. Our approach to coaching in this practical way is that we help teachers see this is what strong instruction looks like, breaking that down to small components or action steps. Once they see what that strong instruction looks like, we help them to name like the key things that you need to do to be able to really demonstrate this particular action step. And then finally, we collaboratively do some planning and practice so that the teacher can practice a component of that instruction before they take it live in front of their students. Similarly to the story that I shared about Maria Costello, Tania Pritchard, who's an instructional superintendent that I've had the pleasure of coaching over the past few years, works with a cluster of elementary schools. She is an alum of a few of our programs, and she's also received some one-on-one coaching from our team, both myself and another colleague. Here's a quote from Tania. "One of the things I work hard as a leader to impart is not to think of ourselves as individual schools, but as a cluster of schools that are here to support each other. We often work in silos, and if we can share these practices, we can be stronger together." So Tania's work as a principal supervisor, again, she leads about 12 elementary schools in DC. And she's really focused on observation and feedback and improving teacher practice through the support of their instructional coaches, assistant principals, and principals. In 2022-23, 8 of her 13 schools had above average growth in ELA. 4 also had above average growth in math. And for 2 years, her cluster has been the home of 5 DCPS, home to 3 of 5 DCPS elementary schools that have been named as bold performance by Empower K-12. This highlights schools that are really moving student achievement at a higher rate than others. So that hopefully gives you an overview of what we are hoping to be able to offer to Bridgeport Public Schools. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have, but very proud of the work that we've been able to do with our partners. And again, hope to be able to bring some of these proof points to Bridgeport so that you can be highlighted in a future presentation with a future partner. What questions do you have? And would love to be able to address anything that you're thinking.
Okay, so I'll start with committee members. Mr. Woodson, do you have any questions?
No questions at this point.
Committee member, Ms. Bain, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I do actually. I have one question concerning the students. Your model went from top leadership down to the students, and the only thing I really heard you say is that the teachers was work with the students to bridge the gap, which is great, but can you expound a little bit on how they would do that with the student engagement piece of it, please?
Sure, absolutely. So I love that question because like, where are the students in all of this? And that's a really important question. And that really resonates with me. And the way that I would answer that is at the end of the day, what we want our students to experience is really high quality instruction where they're.
Ms. Brown, I'm sorry again.
Sorry about that.
Did you lose me?
We can hear you, but we can't see you.
Yeah.
Online is fine.
Yeah,
too.
online
It's just
is-
this room.
Oh, it's just in this room.
Yeah.
This room.
It's just the screen.
So the public can, well, it's just the passing
Just
time
whoever's in here.
Well, if that's the case and there's nothing being presented on screen that
Yeah.
we have already in front of us with our packet, you
Okay.
can feel free to answer the question.
Sure. So what we want for our students is to be able to engage with high quality instruction that's rigorous, that's helping them to achieve and master the grade level content. And our support is directly to the folks that are going to make that happen. So through the support of our leaders and giving feedback to the teachers, hopefully we're able to improve the experience of students. You specifically asked about student engagement. Through some of the tools that we would be using for observation and feedback, or through some of the in-person coaching that might happen. If I'm going to walk into a classroom with a leader and I have some concerns about how students are being called on, engaging in content, answering and asking questions, engaging in student discourse, I can help that leader identify a very clear, actionable action step for the teacher. And then I'm going to help that leader be prepared to show the teacher what it looks like to have really strong engagement. Once they can show the teacher what strong engagement looks like, they'll use that action step to say, these are the actions that I want you to take to improve student engagement in your classroom.
Okay.
And then I'm going to work with that leader to be prepared to have that teacher practice that action step, so that it's not just, teacher, you need to engage your students more. It's, you need to engage your students by, one, calling on students, cold calling students when you ask a question. Two, giving them time to process by writing first. Three, call on 3 students. I need to hear from Tim. I need to hear from Shayna. I need to hear from Vernon. And then have that discussion where students are starting to build those habits of discussion in a way that students are fully engaged in the classroom.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. It's good. Really good. No further questions.
I have a few questions. In general, school districts that participate in Relay, have they experienced boost in morale and confidence for cohort members as well as school districts?
That's a great question. And we have collected, I wish I had some specific data points around that, so I can, we can definitely find some data, specific data around what you're asking. What I've seen in DC in particular, because that's the partner that I work with closely, they do like panorama surveys where like teachers and students and as well as leaders, answer questions about their experiences at the schools. And what I found with schools that I've worked closely with is, one, teachers feel like they're being supported. They feel like they're getting ongoing feedback. They feel like their leaders are in the work with them and they're doing it alongside them. And it's not just like, I'm going to pop in twice a year and do your evaluation and maybe or maybe not know what's going on in between some of those evaluative cycles. When teachers feel supported, when they feel like they're in the work with someone and not alone, that does boost morale and that does increase teacher as well as leader retention. I find it fascinating in DC. Every year, I am working with the same principals. The principals stay. They're in the work. They're staying in those seats. And if they do leave, it's because they've been promoted. And it's been or retire. Some people are retiring out here, but they're staying in their seats because they feel like not only are they performing well and making real strides in their schools, but their instructional superintendent is supportive of them. They have clarity around what the priorities are, and they feel like they're able to do that work. And that overwhelmed feeling that a lot of school leaders have, I had it myself, starts to diminish.
My next question, I'll just give context for the public that's watching. Bridgeport Public Schools within the last 10 years have eliminated several teacher support systems, including paras, coaches, directors, and we are in a critical state of failure. So we are in the bottom 4 of the entire state of Connecticut, and we are a failing district. Have you seen Relay participate with failing districts and help them turn around towards success?
Yes, absolutely. In one of our in our work in DC, as well as in work with both in North Carolina, in Denver, again, Tim may be able to speak to some specifics. One example that's coming to mind is a small district in Colorado that had a school that was on one of the lists, and schools never want to be on the list. And through the work of a dedicated relay coach over the course of a couple of years, this leader was able to really improve, I think it was specifically math student achievement, and work her school's name off of that list. Last year, my colleague shared a video as the principal of the school was watching the results come through when her school was named as one of the schools that had shown the level of improvement and performance to be able to move her school off of that list. And the principal was overwhelmed with emotion because of the hard work she put in with the support of her relay coach to be able to achieve that. And again, I know that we have maybe a link to that story that we can try to find for you and share with you to get some clarity around exactly the impact that we've been able to have.
Okay.
I could just add on quickly, that case study that Jalon is mentioning in Pueblo, Colorado is included in the packet that we provided. And I reviewed some of the specifics of those outcomes in previous presentations. But high level, the 3 schools that we were supporting directly, 2 of them have already moved out of turnaround status. And the third, which was the final one to enter into the cohort, is on a positive trajectory to do so as well.
And I can personally speak for Relay's work with educational agencies at the state level in several different states, large states, that identified Relay specifically for low-performing districts over multi-year periods of time in order to ensure that the work was scalable and sustainable. And those districts, by and large, have all demonstrated improvement and done really well. Okay. I have more questions, but I just want to make sure I circle back around to committee members in case they have something else to ask or add. Mr. Woodson?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Ms. Payne?
No,
All right. I'm going to be very transparent and get to the meat and potatoes of the substance and materiality of this change in contract. There were several articles going around regarding the prior contract, alleging it to be about $8 million. And this material change not only is in the length of it being a 2-year contract, but also in the price. Am I correct with that?
Yes.
So it's come down significantly to the 2 years at about $2 million, correct? I think based on the material change in the price, Relay's reputation, Bridgeport's history of getting rid of coaches and the support systems that's necessary for a school district, and that we are in a critical failure state and several of our schools have been failing for years. I will entertain a motion to approve this renewal, or I'll entertain a motion for this renewal, resubmission of the new proposed contract between Relay and Bridgeport Public Schools. Do I have a motion for it?
I make a motion.
It's been moved by Mr. Woodson. I'll second it. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
aye.
Okay, so all committee members have voted in favor. It passes committee unanimously. It will be presented at our next regular board meeting, which is scheduled for, no, it'll be actually presented later on this month on February 26th board meeting. And hopefully a lot of the material terms and changes, and given the state of this school district, board members will take this into consideration. Thank you so much, Ms. Brown and Mr. Maines, for coming back with such a substantial change. And I hope you have a good evening.
Absolutely. Thank you. It was a pleasure to be here, and I hope to see you all soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is discussion and possible action on a renewal, resubmission of a new proposed contract between Hanover and the Bridgeport Board of Education. And on the screen, we have Ms. Howe. Good evening, Ms. Howe. How are you?
Good evening. I'm back again. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
And I will need permission to share my screen as well, too.
Okay, no problem. It's going to take a second. The public can see you right now, but we cannot see you in the room. Although
Well,
if I look at IT's very small screen, I can see you. So just going to be a little patient before we start the presentation to the public and in the room, as we have members of the community in our audience. All right, now.
I still need access to share, and then I should be good to go.
Okay.
Thank you. You're welcome. Yeah. And I'll stop by once a week. Okay.
Any second now. Okay.
There it is. Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much. Again, my name is Lindsay Howe. I'm from Hanover Research, and for tonight, my plan is to give a short overview of Hanover. I'm going to recap the proposed areas of support, and then share an example of a data visualization tool and review the revised fee structure here. Hanover Research, we are a custom K-12 education research and professional services firm. We partner with districts in research initiatives and implementation support to improve student outcomes through evidence-based practices. On this screen here, you're going to see 4 separate buckets in the ways that we support districts, all custom. When initially working with a district and a priority area has been identified, we provide a scope of work with a series of research deliverables. We've already delivered that to Bridgeport. And as that scope of work is refined, Hanover pulls from over 200 areas of research expertise. Hanover is able to act as an extension of the work that is currently ongoing and can build capacity, meaning because of our expertise, we can deliver research faster and more efficiently so district staff are able to focus on their day-to-day. Hanover also maintains a third-party perspective, especially when we're evaluating current practices or programs. After research is completed, we deliver key findings and recommendations to the district and often to the board. And as that third party, these results are objective and rooted in data. While we're a firm that works with districts nationwide, we've worked with 23 districts in the state of Connecticut in our 20-year history, several regional agencies, the Connecticut Department of Education, and a handful of independent schools. Some of your peer districts that we currently work with include Stamford, Norwalk, West Hartford, and Hartford. This next slide here overviews our suggested support based on 4 key areas after ongoing discussions with district leaders. So you'll see here listed out high quality instruction or an instructional audit, as we prefer to call it at Hanover, data literacy and assessment, staffing and an HR analysis, and program evaluation. And one of the things that I want to highlight here is that all of these key areas are designed to gain a better understanding of return on investment that the district has made into these programs, fidelity of implementation, and improved data literacy practices. In many cases, especially with program evaluation and instructional audits, we're able to provide some key findings and recommendations back to the district leadership on things to change, things to abandon, or things to maintain within the district. This slide here outlines some of our more common research methods. We take a mixed methods approach, meaning we might deliver a survey and use those findings to deliver in-depth interviews and then complete a data analysis project, providing comprehensive understanding of a designated topic area. I'm going to share a separate screen here because I want to pivot next to an example of a deliverable. So prior to the start of work we identify what data currently exists to establish a baseline, often using what we call a student outcomes dashboard. I'm going to pivot to an example. This particular example here is really designed to give the district a very large overview of what's happening in terms of data. So we're able to identify achievement gaps and then really to monitor changes and improvements made. So often when I'm working with district leaders and they're making decisions about programs to keep or to abandon or to tweak, in many cases they say, but how will we know it works? And that's really rooted in data. This is also a tool to educate district leadership and building principals to identify correct information to make data-driven decisions. So in this particular example here, I'm just going to pilot this for a second. I know that the board may or may not be able to see this super well. But one thing that is powerful about this particular dashboard is that we break up academic, behavior, and programmatic components within the district. And we look at it from various elements. So we look at it from student success outcomes through demographic buckets. We also look at other areas. So think things like 504 plans, economically disadvantaged versus non-economically disadvantaged, LEP programs by gender, access to gifted and talented programs, special education. And here you'll start to see, I'm going to hover over this right here because there is a lot of data here, but it's designed to tell you what's behind that data. And so really here, this is a great way for the district to identify what achievement gaps exist so that we can dig in further to things like root cause analysis and really tailor the research to making improvements to those particular student outcomes. The other powerful thing about a tool like this is that we're able to look at it from academic and behavioral components to see where students are represented in those various categories. And at the top here, there's some filtering capabilities. So longitudinal analysis is really important, especially as the district is working to make improvements year to year. And that's again where I was talking about how do we measure outcomes and improvements there. The other side with this, excuse me, is a side-by-side analysis. So you have the ability to measure various student outcomes or early warning indicators school by school. So if I wanted to take one elementary school and then have it look at the rest of the particular district, or if I wanted to compare it to another district, to another school, I can. And it's going to show me what those data points are. Hold on. And we can look to see, and one thing that's really powerful about this is if we know we have various schools that are in turnaround status or that are being, or schools that are in exemplar status, we're going to look to identify what are those schools doing well and how can we capitalize on that, or where are various areas of improvement that we can continue to make within those schools. I'm going to pivot back to my presentation here. So here, this really outlines what our modified proposal is suggesting. So option one, we are looking at the district may look to elect a year's worth of research in a single queue and our implementation support. This is also known as our advisory services. Our advisory services are where we complete work with district staff on action planning around the completed research. This might include workshops and leadership consults. The district can expect 4 to 6 completed projects per year with the option to renew. Option 2, this includes 2 queues of research happening simultaneously. And it can include 8 to 12 completed research projects and really allows us to address 2 priorities at once. So for example, we might be supporting the district on data literacy practices, and then we might also be supporting the district on a program evaluation of a designated program happening all at once. This option does not include the advisory services for implementation support. Within the proposal too, you'll see also the option to add focus groups. These are small group sessions designed to gather feedback known as qualitative research. Now, I do want to note that within the descriptions and scope of work that we presented on these topic areas, there is qualitative research occurring, but it's in the form of in-depth interviews that occur one-to-one. Focus groups tend to be large, small groups of about 12 people, and we deliver those on site, and we manage the entire process of the focus group, and that occurs while research is occurring there. That is my presentation, so I am open to questions at this moment.
Okay, I'll open up the floor to committee members. Ms. Bain, any
No,
questions?
any questions at this time?
Mr. Woodson?
No, not at this time.
I will start with questions or just an immediate comment. A colleague of mine, the Secretary of the Board of Education, Ms. Jennifer Perez, brought up a proposal that's pending right now on the committee level, and Hanover had actually did some research about proposed late times. And also for the public, I've attended numerous outside organization meetings where a lot of the community, including the NAACP, Faith Acts, Bridge for a Generation Now, called for where is the return on an investment with our ARPSR dollars. Those types of audits in terms of what we spent our ARPSR funds on, is that possible through Hanover?
It is. That's a great question. So when we look at program evaluation, we take, again, a mixed methods approach. So we want to find out a number of things. We want to find out if it's being implemented correctly, if it's being implemented correctly across multiple sites, and then also what that return on investment is. So it's a combination of fidelity of implementation. Is it being implemented in the right ways? And then is it providing the returns back to the district? We have some districts right now who added a number of programs through ESSER, and we have the other ability to do an inventory. So that program inventory allows us to go through and look at the programs that are added within that district and help the district prioritize which ones that you want to evaluate. The other side of this that I will note too is that within our advisory services, we also program evaluation is probably our most used core competency and within our core capability. And within the advisory services, we teach districts our methods to utilize program evaluation tools so that it's a sustainable practice within the district.
I know at our last meeting, January 9th, I asked a plethora of questions, and I feel satisfied, and I'm going to just go around to committee members one more time before I get straight to the point. If there's any questions or comments. Okay. And so the main thing is this is substantively and materially different than what was presented, especially in terms of the costs. Our option one, I don't recall exactly what it was prior, but I believe it was around $130,000 the last time. And so we're seeing and I appreciate the material change in pricing to $97,500. And I also see the same a significant reduction in option two to $105,000. And given the scope of what this entails, also as well as other projects and referrals as to what's successful and what's working in other districts, I think that these material changes make it very possible and affordable for our district to do it, especially at this time. And seeing that there is no further questions or debate. I'll see if any members interested in moving for a renewal of the resubmission, a renewal/resubmission of the new proposed contract between Hanover and the Bridgeport Board of Education. I think which particular option we can determine as a full board, but both, like I said, are materially different and necessary, especially for some of the lofty goals and referrals to some of our committees. So is there a motion?
Make a motion.
It's been moved by Mr. Woodson. Is there a second?
I second it.
It's been seconded by Ms. Bain. Any further discussion or debate? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
The ayes are unanimous. The motion has passed. We will present this to our February 26th regular board meeting. Thank you so much again, Ms. Howell. Appreciate working with you.
Have a good evening.
You too.
Okay, right.
The next item on the agenda is the interviewing of candidates. We have multiple roles. We have Deputy Superintendent, Chief Human Resources Officer, Director of Communications, and Executive Director for School Leadership. Pursuant to Connecticut General Statute 1-200, this item qualifies for executive session given that it is for personnel matters. So I'll entertain a motion to move the interviews to executive session. Do I have, it's been moved by Mr. Woodson. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
It's been seconded by Ms. Bain. All in favor? Aye. Okay, so we're going to move into executive session to interview these candidates, and we'll be back.